So I'm really backed up on the videos that I need to do. I have a couple of new BFS rods that I need to do preview videos on, and I just got in 2 new BFS reels that I need to do unboxing videos on. But this video takes precedence over all that. And that's because Tackle Warehouse, probably the most popular place in America to buy fishing tackle, has just done a Bait Finesse Olympics. Now, they don't call it the Bait Finesse Olympics, but it's very similar to what I've done a couple of times already on my channel. The first one was way back in 2018. I did like a 6-reel cast battle. And then just a couple of years ago, I did like a massive 13 or 14 reel cast battle. And now Tackle Warehouse has just released an article on their website, and I urge you to go to their website and read it. But they took all the Bait Finesse reels that they have for sale, so basically American market, and they did their own cast battle. They were pretty detailed as well. Now, unfortunately, they did not do it on video, which is strange considering the resources they have, but they did record the results in this article. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it with you guys, and we're going to talk about the results, and I'm going to give my opinion. So of course, we're here on Tackle Warehouse's webpage, and I just saw this article yesterday, and I have read some of it already, but we're going to go into more of a deep dive in this video. So let's click on this link. It says Best BF Reels of 2024 by Tackle Warehouse, and it's got a nice picture of all the reels that participated. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 reels participated. So this was almost as big a cast battle as I had a couple of years ago. And once again, these are all reels that they sell on their website. All right, so let's read real quick. Finding the best Bait Finesse reel. Born in Japan as a niche, enthusiast-driven technique for trout fishing. Okay, first error right there. Bait Finesse started off in bass fishing, not trout fishing. The Bait Finesse category has emerged as one of the fastest growing segments of the domestic bass industry in recent years. At its core, Bait Finesse is simply using smaller than average baits for fishing. With these micro-sized baits comes light line ranging from 8-pound on the high end down to 2-pound on the low end. While this might sound simple in theory, anyone who has downsized such light line can tell you it's easier said than done. This is true. When dealing with twine that thin, especially with casting equipment, line management becomes paramount to maintain its integrity, which means the standard bass equipment won't cut it. Luckily, vendors have rushed to fill in the demand for casting reels that are capable of flicking feather-light lures, resulting in an arms race for the best Bait Finesse reel. And this is true, especially since China has put pressure on the Japanese with their extremely radical Bait Finesse offerings. Now, to continue, it says to help anglers cut through the noise and bring to light some of the best Bait Finesse reels on the market, we did the only logical thing we could spend. Let me read that. We did the only logical thing we could. Spend 8 hours casting all of the Bait Finesse reels on the market, measuring distances, tabulating results, and synthesizing our findings. The goal: answer all of the questions that a customer might have when looking to purchase a new Bait Finesse casting reel. Now, unfortunately, I kind of give a spoiler as to which reel won, according to their opinion. It says Best Overall BF Reel of 2024. Top pick, DAIWA PX BF70 casting reel. And for those of you who know, this is basically the now discontinued Alpha's Air TW with a longer handle. So let's read what they said about this. It says, in total, we put 11 reels to the test, and the DAIWA PX BF70 BF casting reel stood above them all. In terms of total casting distance, the PX was not the outright winner. I'm not surprised, but we felt there was enough nuance to the title of Best Overall that it required looking beyond casting distance. When you take into consideration, ease of use, value, and accuracy, the DAIWA PX BF70 BF casting reel was the clear-cut winner, ranking high enough in each category to take top honors. During our testing period, we utilized 4 different types of line: 10-pound braid, 8-pound fluoro, 6-pound fluoro, and 4-pound fluoro. So wow, they really went off on the different line poundages and diameters. And it became apparent that there was an inverse relationship between the performance and line size with the PX BF70. To put it simply, as the line got smaller, the performance got better. Well, no duh. It's worth noting that this was the only reel that both testers were able to empty the spool with 8-pound fluorocarbon, which was another reason it leads us to believe that the PX BF70 was engineered purely for bait finesse tactics. Alright, some more spoilers here. We found out that the braking system in the DAIWA PX, I'm just going to call it PX, casting reel was so dialed into lightweight that it allowed for fine adjustments when bouncing between the weights down to 1/32 ounce of variance. For anglers who prefer tuning, For anglers who prefer turning all of the brakes off, the A7075 air spool requires minimum thumb input. Basically, over brake. Now it says these two features worked in conjunction to keep backlashing to a minimum, extending every single cast, not just the good ones. Of the 11 reels tested, the median price was $285. The DAIWA PX comes in slightly above the average price at $349.99, far from the most expensive, but an incredible value when you consider its all-out performance. At home with light line and light lures, the PX casting reel delivers enough of a technological leg up that it will drastically offset the learning curve for those who get introduced to bait finesse fishing, while also providing high-end performance that will satisfy the most discerning enthusiast. That's incorrect, but we'll get into more of my thoughts on this article at the end. Alright, so best budget BF reel, and the category is under $150. The Arc Gravity BFS casting reel, also known as the Hybo Arise Air. And it says, punching way above its price point, the Arc Fishing Gravity BFS casting reel was one of the most surprising revelations of this entire experiment, finishing close to the top of the list when it came to total casting distance and providing minimal reel fluff. The Arc Fishing Gravity BFS proved to be a serious contender, hitting the scale at only 5.2 ounces. The Gravity is comparable weight-wise to some of the more expensive reels like the Xenon MG LTX and the Bates Hundo. Both of them are significantly more expensive, as you can see. It says a couple of things stood out to us when we were testing this reel. The first of which was the braking system, utilizing Arc's GCS gravity control system, which offers 3 different brake settings that can be changed with the press of an internal button. The Gravity BFS can be further fine-tuned with an external knob. Inside the box, the Arc includes printed instructions that show how and when to adjust the brake system. The Whiffled spool was another feature that grabbed our attention. It utilizes much less material than the other spools due to the perforations, and also sits much deeper inside the reel, so much that you have to be careful when applying line because it's easy to overfill. There's no way for us to know definitively why this powerhouse reel was so effective, but it caught us by surprise so much that we started to theorize what makes it so good. Either way, if you're looking to get into bait finesse without spending an arm and a leg, the Arc Gravity Fishing is a smart choice. Well, I can tell you why it casts so good. Super light spool, 5.3 ounces if memory serves me correct, and a very effective adjustable brake system with a huge range of settings. And I've proven this when I did my High Boat Arise casting video. Alright, so next up, best value BFS casting reels. Top pick Shimano CURADO BFS. Alright, probably the most ancient of bait finesse technology of this group, but let's read. An extension of the well-established CURADO K family of reels, the Shimano CURADO BFS casting reels deliver the same dependable workhorse performance that competitive anglers know and expect. Our overall winner when it came to total casting distance, wow. The CURADO BFS delivered outstanding distance with slightly heavier weights like 3/32 of an ounce and 1/8 ounce, which is still incredibly light by traditional bass angling standards. Carrying the same iconic cosmetics as the rest of the Ks, the CURADO BFS allows access to the spool through a hinged side plate, but relies on an exterior brake adjustment to dial in your settings. Simple numbering from 1 to 6 makes it easy to find the exact brake setting for your lure, weight, and line type. Priced at just $209.99, the CURADO BFS casting reel falls way below the median $285 price for this sampling, making it an attractive option for anglers who are focused on getting the most out of their dollars. To put it simply, it's just hard to beat a CURADO. You know you're going to get outstanding dependability at a great price. Alright, so first shocker was that it came in first overall in total casting distance. We'll get into more of that later. Alright, now check this out. Best BFS reel for braid. Top pick, KASTKING Kestrel Elite. And this is the old Kestrel Elite, not the new one, the Pro, that I believe is available or is going to be available on AliExpress soon. So let's read up on this. This is a huge shocker, or was a huge shocker when I read it the first time. You might be asking what makes a reel the best with braid. To us, two major factors come into play when fishing with braided line: management and total casting distance. The KASTKING Kestrel Elite bait finesse reels delivered both in spades. While testing with braid, the Kestrel Elite was able to sidestep a lot of the follies that tripped up some of the other reels, like constant backlashing and wrapping around the spool shaft, ranking it towards the top of the list solely on line manageability. When you factor in its competitive price point, $199.99, so wow, they lowered it by like, I think, 20 bucks. And the fact that it was responsible for some of the longest casts of the entire testing period, it's easy to see why the KASTKING Kestrel Elite came out on top. Considering our 4-man testing team has 0 collective hours with the KASTKING reel in hand, this finding came as a bit of a shock to us. And once we start poking around some reviews both online and on our website, we found a lot of anglers echoed our sentiments when it came to the Kestrel. In our humble opinion, it's definitely worth the investment if you enjoy utilizing braid to leader for your bait finesse fishing. Alright, so first of all, they obviously, if they saw my review, which I know they watched it, they'll know that me as well as other experienced bait finesse anglers find the Kestrel Elite to be overbraked and, in my opinion, average for the specs it brings to the table. Because at the time, it was boasting like the lightest spool and bait finesse when it came out, and that was by far. And then, you know, the imitation FTB system, this reel should have been dominating, especially with the super light lures, but to me, it struggled even with the trout magnet. So I don't know what these guys were on. Maybe with braid it turns into a whole different reel, but I will admit I have not taken the Kestrel Elite out to do battle on the casting field with another reel yet, so they just may be right. Okay, so best bait finesse braking system. Hardest to backlash, and the top pick was the TATULA BF70 casting reel. Alright, let's read this. When outlining this experiment, one of the questions we felt that a prospective customer might have is, which reel is the hardest to backlash? To answer that question, we paid close attention while casting and slowly eliminated reels based on the number of backlashes, and there were a few. In the end, the DAIWA TATULA BF70 casting reels took top honors for the best braking system. Yeah, I'm laughing at that one. If you've ever fished with a reel that utilizes DAIWA's SV boost spool, you know how forgiving it is towards suboptimal casting, which is what makes the TATULA so exceptional when it comes to fishing light lures. So right there, in my opinion, this diminishes a lot of credibility of this article because the TATULA BF70 does not have the SV boost spool. It has air brake. While slightly better suited towards 6-pound, maybe even 8-pound line in comparison to the mind-blowing performance of the PX70, the TATULA BF70 was at the head of the class in terms of casting distance, but was most well noted for its ability to prevent a backlash. There were several casts that I knew were not great, but when I looked down at the spool, it was as if nothing ever happened. This reel takes a lot of pressure off of the angler when casting light lures that weigh next to nothing. Apparently that's a quote from one of the testers named Charlie. To continue, it says, if you aren't ready to step into that true bait finesse arena with 4-pound and a 1/32 ounce weight, or you're not ready to spend $350 on a PX70, the TATULA BF70 is the next best choice, delivering exceptional performance from end to end. The TATULA casting reel is going to be hard to beat, especially for someone who is just tipping their toes into bait finesse fishing. Now that I agree with. Alright, so it says honorable mention. In each of the above categories, there was engaging discussion surrounding the winners. While some of the reels below didn't take the top spot on the podium, that's not to discredit their capabilities. There are tons of great reels on the market that are capable of meeting and exceeding your bait finesse demands, and we encourage anglers to check them out and make an informed decision of their own. Alright, so basically they're listing off all the other reels that didn't win an award. Pretty much. Okay, so let's get to the tackle they use, and I applaud Tackle Warehouse for actually showing us the rod they used. It said rod choice. In planning this experiment, we knew that we would need to utilize the same exact rod across all the reels to hopefully eliminate as many variables as possible. How did we land on the Dobyns Sierra Ultra Finesse? Well, for starters, Dobyns makes fantastic rods. Beyond that, the Ultra Finesse series is one of our highest volume movers in the bait finesse genre, and so approachably priced at $189, that it lowers the barrier to entry. We chose the 7-foot light fast model, partially due to popularity and partially due to the range of our testing weights. On that note, we did feel that the two lightest weights, 1/32 ounce and 1/16 ounce, were pushing the limits of this rod, and you could probably optimize casting distance if you dropped down to an ultralight action. Overall, everyone loved the performance offered by the Dobyns Sierra Ultra Finesse rods. Okay, line choice. During the preliminary stages of this experiment, we listed out all of the questions a customer might have when it came to purchasing a bait finesse reel. One of the primary questions that we felt a sharp customer might have is, how does this reel perform with 4, 6, 8-pound and braid? This meant spooling and unspooling the reels every round and being critical of changes in performance. Some reels seemed to pick up momentum when we dropped the line size. While it was clear that other reels were not up to the task, we felt that it was well worth the labor when drawing these comparisons between reels. No matter how the reels perform, one thing was clear: we could not have been more impressed by the small sizes of the Sunline Super Sniper FC fluorocarbon and the new Sunline PEX4. It stood up to all the suboptimal casts and kept on ticking. Whether we were casting or spooling, we noticed the surprisingly thin diameter of the PEX4 braid, and there's the diameter there, 0.132 millimeters for 10-pound. We could recommend upsizing your line choice by 1 or 2 sizes. if you choose to explore this super thin braid. So I can definitely vouch that running these tests and spooling these reels up and maybe changing out this and that takes a ton of time. I've been doing this for years. But clearly they have the resources, of course, to be able to throw away, you know, nearly $30 spools of fluoro, and I'm not sure what the braid costs, but I'm sure it's at least 20 bucks. Fortunately, I don't have that luxury. Alright, so line capacity, looks like they were using a line counter. Now I thought that they were using a line counter to measure the distances, but I think they use a tape measure. In our office, we are always a little leery of a real manufacturer suggested line ratings because they tend to be slightly inflated. Also, since there's no industry standard for measuring line capacity, it's never an apples to apples comparison between brands. To remedy these issues and provide customers with an accurate line capacity measurement, we took matters in our own hands with the Rapala digital line counter. So let's go over these findings of theirs. So REVO X BFS 10-pound braid, it held 95 yards. Wow. 4-pound line 88 yards, 6-pound 63, 8-pound 50, which I believe is what they advertise. And with the Xenon, it actually held more, 110 yards of braid, 100 yards of 4-pound, 70 yards of 6, and 50 yards of 8. The Art Gravity, wow, 130 yards of the braid, 110 of 4, 75 of 6, and 55 yards of 8-pound. The Bates Hundo, 120 yards, 105, 72, and 55. Now here's an anomaly here. The DAIWA PX70 or Alphas Air held 100 yards of 10-pound braid, 4-pound it held 86 yards, 6-pound 65, but only 40 yards of 8-pound. So more on this in a second. Now the TATULA, 130 yards, 110, 80, and 55. KASTKING Kestrel, 100, 80, 60, and 50. The Valiant Eagle 2, 110, 100, 75, and 60. Now that's really strange because they literally have the same spool. The porting is a little different, but the diameter, the width, the depth is the same. I mean, you can swap spools between these two KASTKING reels, so this huge discrepancy in line capacity is weird. LEWS Custom Light SS. I think this is the only reel here with centrifugal brakes. 110, 95, 75, and 55. The mighty ALDEBARAN. 120, 110, 80, and 60. And then the CURADO. 120, 100. So according to this, the ALDEBARAN with the smaller 29.5mm spool holds more line than the CURADO. But since they went to the trouble of slapping on a line counter, I'm going to trust these results. But this 40 yards for the Alphas Air, that's questionable. Okay, so casting styles. So you see this guy, well, these are two different dudes. Someone's doing sidearm, this guy's doing overhead. It says to further level the playing field when it came to casting, we intentionally employed different testers with different casting styles. These mechanical differences have resulted in varied approaches to braking. The over-the-shoulder, all-or-nothing approach. The brakes are essential, and it was very apparent which braking system stood out as intuitive and effective. With the more refined sidearm approach, the braking systems were almost always turned off, shining on the reel's performance sans the brakes. So that makes zero sense. Overhead casting, especially light baits, takes more finesse when it comes to timing to get the optimal trajectory. Sidearm casting is the easiest. That's why a lot of people, whether they want to admit it or not, use a bait caster, but they only sidearm cast because they can't overhead cast and get that timing right. All right, so let's get to these results. Yeah, it looks like they used a tape measure. It says after every cast, the results were recorded and inputted into a spreadsheet, and at the end of the experiment, all of the results were inputted and averaged by total length, total average cast distance per weight size, and average casting distance, blah blah blah. All right, here we go. Average casting distance by weight in feet. So with the REVO, they're claiming it casted a 32nd ounce. Now a 32nd of an ounce is lighter than a trout magnet, a true 1/32 ounce. It's like 0.88 grams, while the trout magnet weighs about 1 gram. And they're saying that this REVO X could hit 54 feet when I struggle to hit almost 50 feet with my highly tuned ALDEBARAN BFS. Now with 1/16 ounce, 71 grams or 71 feet, 3/32, 84, 8th ounce, 102. The Xenon, which is much more expensive, casts it a little bit better in all weights, which it should. I'd be pissed if I bought a Xenon and the REVO X outcasted it in any weight. The arc gravity, as you can see here, 60 foot on the 1/32 of an ounce, 78 on the 16th, 108 foot. So far, the farthest when it came to 1/8. Bates Hundo, 61, 77, 90, 106. So looks like the arc gravity beat it. The PX 70, 64 for 1/32 of an ounce, 78 for 16th, 87, 99. And they put an asterisk with the 99 because they claimed that it cast all its 10-pound line off, or 8-pound line, which was 40 yards. Now that's highly suspect in my opinion, but let's keep going. The BF 70 was pretty much right in there with the PX, except for the 1/8 ounce where it did 106 feet. KASTKING Kestrel, 60 foot, 77, 110. So for 1/8 ounce, they're claiming so far the Kestrel recorded the highest average cast. The Valiant Eagle 2, pretty much very similar to the Kestrel up until 1/8. The LEWS Custom Light, so far it looks like it is the lowest performer. It was even below the PX 70 with an 1/8 ounce lure. Now if LEWS is watching this, I don't believe that Tackle Warehouse knows how to fully get the best performance out of the custom light. So if you email me and offer to send me one, I will show the world what that reel can do. Alright, now here, SHIMANO ALDEBARAN. Big shocker right here. Look at these distances, 57, 74, 86, and 96. See, this also takes some of the credibility away from this article in my opinion, as I've achieved way better results. And then CURADO BFS, look at that. They're saying the CURADO BFS outcasted the ALDEBARAN with a 1/32 ounce lure. Also outcasted it with a 16th ounce, a 3/32 ounce, and a 1/8 ounce lure. And the 1/8 ounce lure, it was a beating. You're looking at about 15 feet, which is 5 yards. Now average casting distance by line type. So the REVO X, it said its best average casting was with 8-pound fluoro. The Xenon, also 8-pound fluoro, average longest casts. With the ARC, 10-pound braid and 8-pound, with 4-pound not far behind. That's interesting. The Bates Hundo, also 8-pound fluoro, average longest cast. The PX 70, 4-pound and 8-pound were very close. For the TATULA, 8-pound fluoro. The Kestrel, look at that, 92 feet average with 10-pound braid, 74, 78, 87. Valiant Eagle 2 also did its best average distance with braid. LEWS Custom Light, very even with, once again, 8-pound line. SHIMANO ALDEBARAN also did its best average with 8-pound line, and the CURADO did its best with 10-pound braid. Alright, conclusion. While the test ended up being more involved than originally envisioned, we felt that the effort was rewarded with some helpful insight for customers when it comes to purchasing a bait finesse reel. See our related articles below to see our winners for best spinning reels, casting reels, and rods. And we got some additional frequently asked questions. And once again, if you guys want to deep dive into this, go to Tackle Warehouse's website, check out the article. But Now let's go to my thoughts on this testing. Now I'm not throwing shade at Tackle Warehouse. I know everyone's bait finesse experience, it's going to be different. If you're wondering why, you know, there's not any AliExpress reels or reels from Japan like the Conquest or the SSR in this battle, it's because they're only testing reels that they sell, which of course is logical. All right, so when I did my 14 reel cast battle, let's go over the reels that I have that actually took place in that cast battle. Okay, so the PX70 took part in my BFS Olympics, known as the Alphas Air TW. A version of the LEWS Custom Light, actually the reel that the Custom Light was based off of, the Doyo Liger 30 BFS spec with actually a lighter spool, took part, as well as the SHIMANO ALDEBARAN and CURADO BFS. Now, out of these reels that took part, the PX70 came in last place, throwing a 16th ounce and a 1/8 ounce lure using 4-pound mono. The overall winner was the ALDEBARAN. I believe the CURADO actually beat out the Liger 30 BFS spec. Now, they did not show us what lures they were casting or if they were even lures. Now, there's a reason why every time I do a cast battle, I show you guys a picture of the lure on the scale to show you its true weight. Now, I seriously doubt that these guys took these lures or whatever they were casting and put them on a scale to make sure they actually weighed what they're supposed to. But I doubt they were using a true 1/32 ounce lure. They're probably just looking at a package, trusting what it says, and these ratings on the package are very wrong most of the time. I remember thinking I was bombing out a 16th ounce lure with my CURADO 50. It turns out that the weight inside the lure was 16th ounce. The whole lure itself was like 5 grams. And another thing is that bait finesse has just recently caught on within the last 5 years. And Tackle Warehouse has just recently in the last couple of years started legitimately carrying BFS tackle. So these testers, I'm not knocking their ability. We don't know their casting style or their experience, but personally, I don't think too many of these guys actually bait finesse. They probably took some guys and said, hey, you guys come over here and cast these lures. That's why I wish they would have videoed this whole thing. But let's do this. If you're still with me, I actually have a lot of these reels. And if I get enough likes on this video, I'm gonna need a lot of it. I'm gonna need a lot of them. Let's say 500 likes, and I will take all the reels that I have that were in this test. That's gonna be the Xenon, the Gravity, which is the high bow Arise Air, the PX70, and the BF70. I have those. I have the Kestrel and the Valiant Eagle 2. I have a better version of the Custom Light, and I have the ALDEBARAN and CURADO. So I have all these reels except for the Hundo and the REVO X. If you give me 500 likes, I will put all these reels to the test in a cast battle, and I will use braid as well as 8-pound mono. But yeah, big props to Tackle Warehouse. Their results are their results. Now, of course, my results are different, but you have to consider I've been bait finessing for almost 15 years now. I have some of the oldest bait finesse long discontinued tackle. So my experience with casting these light lures is probably a lot more, I guess, lengthy and advanced than the guys testing. Because as soon as they said that the TATULA BF70 had the best brake system and that the PX BF70 and what they said about it, as well as the Kestrel Elite, it tells me that these guys probably don't have the experience to be able to set up certain reels to get the maximum performance. They tend to like reels with a lot of braking because they're easier to cast. So anyway, check out the article, and if I get 500 likes, I'll take the 9 reels that I have that took part in this test, and we'll do our own version of this battle. Let me know what you think of the results in the comment section, and thanks a lot.